Hey, good morning everybody, it's Mike. Thanks for jumping on with me this morning. This week I want to talk to you about money. Now usually we talk about making money or marketing yourself to create more income through increased sales. But this week I want to talk to you about how to manage the money that we've made. And all of us have made some amount, some less and some more, but let's talk about some money management tips for realtors and establishing some priorities. Okay, fair enough. One of the things that prompted me to bring this topic up this week is that the tax filing date for this year, due to pandemic reasons, was extended until next Monday, May the 17th. So this is your last week to get your taxes filed. And that'll just kind of jumpstart us right into first tip number one, taxes. Well, we all have to pay them. We all have to file. It's just one of those realities of being an adult, right? And you're a small business owner. You're a self-employed individual. So your tax situation's a little bit more complex, no matter how much money that you made versus everybody else. Now, tax filing deadline date is next Monday, the 17th. Couple of things around that for us. The difference between filing and paying your taxes. Some of you avoid filing because you're not prepared to pay any taxes that are owed. Not paying your taxes, there's penalties associated with that, penalties and fines, and that's not good, but that's entirely different from not filing. Not filing is considered tax evasion and is a crime. So whether you can pay the taxes or you can't pay the taxes, and we'll talk about an inability to pay them a little bit later, but even if you can't pay them, still file the returns. Not paying your taxes is a collection issue. Not filing your tax return is evasion and is a crime. So let's don't go there. Let's just deal with the collection issue as we go. Make sense? Okay, so that's tip number one, is get your taxes filed on time. Now, last week, I had a couple of agents make the point to me that quarterly payments for self-employed individuals are no longer required. And that's not true. That's not true. The whole truth to it is that if when you filed last year's tax returns, you didn't owe any more taxes, your estimated payments had been equal to or greater than what you actually owed, then that is true. If you didn't owe any taxes when you filed in 2020, then you were not required to make estimated payments over the past year. However, if you did owe taxes last year, then you did need to make quarterly payments. Or if you can see that your income was jumping up significantly, good for you, then in that case you're required to make quarterly payments. Failure to do so incurs fines and penalties. So we want to stay away from those and away from the myths. So the myth, again, was we're no longer required to make quarterly estimated payments to the IRS. No, that's not true for everybody. That would only be true if you didn't owe anything when you last filed. If you did, or your income is increasing substantially, then you do need to make the quarterly payments. Fair enough? Okay, so this morning I'm tackling two tips. That's number one. Number two, cash reserves. How much is enough for a real estate agent to have in reserve? My contention is 6 months of living expenses. So let's just do some basic math here. If it costs you $5,000 a month to pay your bills, then you need $30,000 in cash reserves. Now, what do I mean by cash reserves? Can I have that in stocks and bonds? No, you can't. It's not liquid. 6 months cash reserves means 6 months of living expenses, cash on hand, in an account at your bank where you can go withdraw it or transfer it at any time. Do I need more than 6 months? People are going to vary on their opinion on that, but my opinion is no. If you have 6 months cash reserves, that's ample reserves for a real estate agent. Well, what about business expenses? You don't need to include that. Just 6 months of personal expenses, cash on hand. Well, I have a friend of mine, I'll tell you this quick little story, maybe you'll get a chuckle out of it. He doesn't trust banks. So I get that. I get entirely where he's coming from on that. He wants to keep the cash reserves in cash in his house. I don't think he buries it in a little jar in the backyard. I think he's just found what he thinks is a really good hiding place in his house. And he thinks that's as good as keeping it in the bank. And it is not. And it is not for this reason that I point out to him. Because if your house catches on fire, dude, there goes your 6 months cash reserves. So, well, I don't want to, that's the same thing as no interest bearing account at a bank. Yeah, I get it, but it's not as safe, right? And, well, I don't want to just keep it in cash. I want to turn it into investments, and then I'll liquidate the investments if I have to. We're going to talk about that during this week, investing. But investing isn't cash reserves. This is something above and beyond. And the lack of cash reserves, is what got many people in trouble during the 2008 recession. Is they didn't have adequate reserves, so when they experienced a sharp drop in sales unexpectedly, they weren't able to meet their obligations, and then really bad things can set in. So there's my first 2 tips. I know this may not be as fun, maybe as sexy as talking about growing your sales this year, but these tips are necessary for each of us who are self-employed to manage our money in the correct way. So tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk about insurance, which kind of insurance is important for you, and I bet I'm going to shock you with that. And we're going to talk about where retirement savings, debt reduction, and investing fit all into this program. And this is Mike, and we're doing all of this so that you can go out there and make it happen for yourself today.